Hey everyone. I'd like to talk a little bit about my invisible portfolio. Um, I've been showcasing the product to friends and family, and on those calls, I didn't have a chance to really deep dive into what's going on. But recently I noticed that there was this huge, massive jump in my invisible portfolio.
Hmm.
So something that I had completely sold in my paper account has had a massive jump. Something that if you didn't weren't keeping an eye on these things, um, you would have I'd have no idea that this had happened. So doing a bit of deep diving, I haven't sold too many assets on here. It was either BCE, Bell, or Okta. And then let me just quickly bring up the Okta stock price and quick investigation. You can kind of see right there. That's what the bump is. Okta went up 30% in the span of 3 days. Um, and I kind of want to go back to what what this really means to me is that I was always thinking that behavioral biases, for the most part, like I didn't really think affected me, but now in hindsight, it absolutely did. I sold Okta because I got frustrated by not seeing one, the insider selling. There was a huge insider selling right as I got it, and then immediately out of frustration, just got rid of it all
Hmm.
without looking at the underlying. And then I just kind of like dismissed all my thinking. The thesis was there. The thesis was they're a leader in SSO. They've had bad bounces. They've learned from them. They still have great market share. Um, they, I still use their products. Um, I think they're a great counterbalance to Microsoft, who's trying to gobble up the market. Um, So what ended up happening was that I went against my original judgment as I wouldn't say an expert in the field, but better than most as a software IT engineer, and thinking that oh Okta doesn't have it, this insider selling and then the price falling off the map that kind of sells it. But now with invisible portfolio, this kind of gives me the confidence to be like, even in my bad bounce, if I had just realized that you actually need like these are going to happen, if I just held it together, held my nerve, how much would
Hmm.
I have ended? I would have been, I can't tell exactly when did I buy it at? Buy 100 at I don't know what the price is here. Oh, here we go. Well, that's a quick September 3rd, I think is the first. So actually, I can just use the date here. So September 3rd, and then let's look at the stock price.
Don't you have this entered in our
I think
investment?
I might have it in Smart Trade. I probably do. Let's see, Smart Trade history. Token, Okta by 98. What's it at now? No, doing that. 105 would have, yeah. So I would have recouped. Would have like not a massive gain, but
Mhm.
I wouldn't have sold it at a loss for what did I bought it. Let's
Relation.
yeah.
Yeah, where's
So
that?
Do you have a smart trade for this?
yeah, let's see. So I've got a couple. I'm gonna sort by Okta here. 98
Oh,
sold at
oh,
75.
a big lot. Wow, that's
Yeah.
people are really
Yeah.
good at timing the bottom, by the way.
What's
People
that
are good
for?
at
This
that.
Did
Expert.
you enter anything else in that? Like what were you
Oh
saying
yeah,
in
let's
there?
take a look at what that disappointed, frustrated, humble,
Oh, wow.
insider selling, sector
You did
concern.
not do a smart, we didn't do a call on this. That would have been super interesting.
Yeah.
Like
So
the tech alone, I mean, you captured it. That's like your narrative is really, really rich. So you're able to go back and say, that's what I was
yeah.
feeling. And now, wow, this is like the quintessential example of the tech is it's meant to allow you to reflect on what you're feeling. So now that you've identified that that's what you're feeling at the time, like we never know the future. Like it had it gone down, you would have felt validated.
Yeah, true.
Because it went up, you feel, I guess, how do you feel? And would you have done it differently? Like it sounds like just a few minutes ago you were saying were you saying I misread it and I let my emotions push me in the wrong direction? Or are you saying, you know what, given the facts at the time, it was a good decision? Because those are critically different things.
I can't, I wouldn't say that it's tough to say misread it. I
Mm,
think I could have, there's still learnings on both sides of this, right? I could have looked before buying at insider selling, and I think that would have at least got me to be like, okay, let me get back in when the timing feels a bit better because there's massive insider selling right before a earnings call is probably an indication that you should just wait a little bit. I should have been a
mm,
bit more patient on that end. But selling it was again completely like they're companies are if you intend to hold companies for a while, like they're going to have bad mark. Like it's I feel like it's an inevitability that they're going to have bad um earnings calls and like quarterly results. But if the underlying company is still one that you believe in and you believe that there's long-term growth, then this is just a blip. This is just a short-term, you know, bad quarter. They'll bounce, in the long term, it'll still be positive in the long run. And that's kind of what I'm looking for, right? This was a long-term pick, but I had short-term thinking.
mm,
And this honestly, if anything, I feel a bit validated to be like, I did pick it. I still believe in Okta. I still
mm,
believe that it's a strong company and that their premise is um their value and prop is still great. And I still think that they make good products. Um, So, it's a bit conflicting. I still think that I have this also validates me that I think I have a bit of a knack for picking strong software companies.
mm.
So yeah, I think I've been kind of looking for a space for invisible portfolio. I think this is kind of one of those. Anyways,
I
what's everyone else's thoughts on this?
I have one question. It doesn't really pertain to invisible portfolio, but um, I was looking myself at the insider trading that you would have seen,
Mhm.
and my own interpretation of it was that like it didn't look bad at all. So I wonder like
Oh,
where
at the
we're
time.
differing in our like I'm wondering like where we're differing in like the way we're reading the insider trading. Because for me, I just see a lot of people executing their options and then
Mm.
selling off portions of that.
Is it this one? Can I see it on Nasdaq? Let's see. What are you
And there was
looking?
also some weird ones where the CEO was like selling his entire position and then buying it back the same day. So yeah. So I just went back to like October, which I think is where you sold, or I'm not sure. Maybe you can check, but
It was probably around that time. Yeah. So maybe I was maybe I just interpreted the selling to be bad. Where was
I'm
the
just curious like what
yeah,
you saw versus what
September
I saw.
25th. So it should have been just prior to that, where they because I remember us looking at the graph that almost posted.
So we're just about getting there. I'm not sure if you would have seen this. This might have been what you saw. So yeah, so looking at this for me, like I just see option executes and then partial sells of the shares that they got from the options. This is something I still am confused about too, though, like how to interpret like what an automatic sell is compared to just an open market sell or the non-open market sells and everything. Oh my. Okay, so this is
Yeah,
what
see,
it
this
was.
is what we saw, right? This is what almost posted to me. And it's like this, like there might have been a lot of smaller ones that are almost as dwarfed by this.
I wonder what that is. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole
Director
Easy to
cluster.
react to a graph. Like people, that's the thing is like people just
Yeah.
react. They're like, it's sort of the difference. Like, like imagine a pawn, pardon the crazy analogy here, but like you walk into a pawn shop with something you know, oh, there's this golden thing, and then someone looks at it like, no, that's like fake gold and it's garbage, or like, oh my gosh, this is like a, you know, an antique from like the, you know, 1700s and it's worth like this insane amount of money. Like to become an epicure, to become knowledgeable in these signals, that's what differentiates.
Mhm.
Because when we say quote, I'm doing air quotes here, like a lot of when we see a lot or something, it's like you just see a graph. But if you don't know how to interpret that graph, you're going to interpret you may interpret the same information that an expert who knows that well in the opposite way. You might say, "Oh, this is terrible, red everywhere," but an expert is actually saying, "Well, look, what is the y-axis?" And like, you know, Cam, your point about open, you know,
Mm.
there's options, like you might say, "No, you're completely misinterpreting that." And it happens regularly. I mean, you could say that about any domain of what we're talking about, but if insider selling is the single criterion that you're reacting to, you better know it really well
Mhm.
because it's highly
True.
ambiguous. There are ways to totally screw up your interpretation of the signal.
Yeah. I think this is really valuable because like I think I should do a bit more research into how to actually read insider trading because I feel like I also get like signals that where like I'll interpret a certain signal, but I feel like I'm really just not sure what I'm doing when I'm looking at insider trading. And I'm sure there is a good way of like being like systematic and like really understanding what's happening, like looking back and seeing who in the past had been a good signal, like you were saying in a previous call, and also just kind of removing the noise of people that are just like executing options and then selling them. Um, and like what is meaningful because yeah, there's all those different things. Like I still don't really understand like what it means for someone to buy something in like non-open market or to the automatic sells I don't fully understand. So I think this is a big area where I could personally grow. And it seems like I'm curious, like if like you read this correctly and then something just happened in the company that no one thought was going to happen. Um, but yeah. What are your thoughts about it, Murali?
Um, I mean, I saw the price come down and then was just like, what the hell's going on when I was reacting to it. And then, then it was easy to see the earning calls fell off a cliff. And then this could have been a signal. I mean, I guess had I been aware of this, it's easy to say in hindsight. I think learning to interpret this is probably one of the um a real takeaway here is it's it's a tool, it's a signal. Should probably learn when you see also if you just were to list all the insider selling and buying, it's kind of just like a row and row and row. So you have to be able to interpret these correctly. Either way, I think in terms of what I'm taking away is I think insider selling is still a signal that should be looked at, especially prior to earnings calls. Like I feel like that's generally a good time to um, check in on it. But I think also the main takeaway I have is like don't overreact to price movements if you intend to kind of hold on unless something has fundamentally changed. Like that's really is there a company fundamental change or is this a um take some time to think about it. So yeah, I
Hmm.
think that's
I I'm so confused looking at the history, like without that chart, and like trying to interpret how that chart came about. Um, I know we basically finished the call here, so I don't want to make it go on for too long, but it's interesting. I think I see that possibly the CEO was granted a bunch of shares and then sold a portion of them. So it didn't seem like he bought anything and he just sold, but he actually was net positive on shares
mm,
after a certain point. Yeah, I really think like these graphs can be like obviously misleading if like certain things are happening. I remember almost you mentioned before that someone had to sell some of their shares because of a divorce. And it's
Yeah.
like some of
Yeah.
this information is like so hard to like actually get from just looking at a chart, like, or anything like that.
Yeah, like, oh, the CEO is selling all their shares. No, he is separating from his wife and needs to pay that amount. Like,
Right.
I mean, I learned that I have to give credit here to, I think that was posted on StockTwits. And like information spreads like wildfire, as does misinformation, by the way. Like it's one of those things. Like if you're in the game, if you choose to play that game, you could easily do a misstep. And I think that's why single name active management is incredibly difficult and prone to error. And the big question is, are you better than than someone just passively holding either that position or holding a diversified index? Uh, I want to add one comment in general. There's actually an interesting paper I found on SSRN looking at the behavioral biases of insiders buying and selling. And they're finding that that insiders, corporate insiders, buy disproportionately more than the stock as the price moves closer to its 52-week low. Like you got to realize that, and vice versa, they sell as it's in the high. Like they're basically using like the most simplistic technical indicator, and I'm assuming that's what they're doing. But think about a busy executive who may not have any training in actively managing a portfolio. We're interpreting their behavior as that is a really, really powerful signal. Like some people are really good at timing. I've seen this, and I think there's some paper on this. But if it's like, someone who may be a software developer or a doctor who became a CEO or whatever, this happens like, well, I've got all this money, and they just like it's like a windfall. And inexperienced people destroy windfalls regularly. And so, hopefully Profit Wall Street, we continue to grow. And, if we go public someday, you guys won't be those people who mismanage a windfall and play it smart. But yeah, this is an area, it's one of the many signals. Like earnings is a signal, and which is rife with misunderstanding and people not taking earnings misses up or down correctly. There's a lot of interesting research on post earnings announcement drift that people typically underreact to earnings surprises and misunderstand that. Like if you can detect all these signals, and I think on another call maybe we could outline what the signals are aside from just price movement, then you could be possibly have some advantage. So we could maybe cover that another time. But yeah, the insider selling one, that's a great one to misinterpret and overreact on versus the fundamentals. So I think just to wrap up, I mean, Murali, again, thank you for sharing, thanks for sharing actually your behavioral analytics, which I think people in general are, no one's ever seen this before. So I think anyone, watching this, please, go back to that section, or maybe I'll just repeat it in the video of like, this is what it looks like to see the performance of the assets that you sold. And most people have massively positive invisible portfolios, while others have negative. And those are the few who are able to predict future losers. The short answer is people put more effort on the buy and less cognitive effort on the sell. And that's why a lot of people underperform the market. So I think we can all learn from this particular metric. And if you have a trading history, please reach out. We're happy to analyze it. We're offering a limited number of free analyses in these accounts to see it because the world doesn't know that this is possible yet, much less the ability to improve once you have that information that really no investor has ever been able to see before, professional or non-professional. So that's something that we're doing. For if you're an investor and want to get better, do reach out. Again, thank you, Murali. Thank you, Cam. Anything else before we wrap up?
No, nothing for me to add.
No.
Taylor. All right. Stay smart. See you soon.
You guys.
All right. See you guys.
Like and subscribe.